food and agribusiness channel started with the aim of interviewing people doing interesting things in the food and agribusiness industries.
I've been fortunate enough to have work mostly with fruits, but with a variation of fruits throughout the industry, from bananas, pineapples, avocados, grapes, now in tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers. The nice thing about the industry is once you have an understanding of the process on one, it's easy to learn the other processes. There are variations, there are things that you need to consider that are different from one to the other, but that it's easy to learn if you know the process. I've been fortunate enough to work through the entire supply chain, not necessarily because I've done all of the jobs, but because on when you work in quality and you work in process improvement, the best way to work towards improvement is to understand each step of the process. So I've been able to work and support the supply chain throughout it, and work whether it's in a vessel, working through vessels, working in trucks, working with containers, working in greenhouses, working in open fields, working in distribution centers, refrigerated, whether we're 30 to 35, whether we're 50 to 55.
So if you could just describe to me, what does a typical day involve in your last position? What would you do on
in my last position as division manager, because I was the leader of the building, I was responsible for the entire operation in the distribution center. My day was, you could say, simple, but the idea was always start looking. I would come into the building, open the building if I was the first one in the building, or if I had one of my commodity managers come in, remove the security, and then we'll go and start their job. But I usually would be after them or before them, walk the building, see that everything was fine, take a look at what was the day ahead, take a look at what were the sales orders that were needed to leave, or were the purchase orders coming into the building, making sure what we needed to produce in that day, or what was needed from the day before that hasn't been finished, making sure that everyone came into the building safe, that everyone came into the building ready for the day, and also trying to have special moments within certain individuals. One of the things that I like to have was share a personal aspect with someone on a daily basis. I had 35 people in the building, in between the managers, the supervisors, the leaders, and then the general labor, but everyone is the same. One of the things that both the company and myself agree with is that the only difference among ourselves was the responsibilities. We all were human beings working with the same goal, trying to bring something, create something, earn something, and be able to provide for our families. Whether you were single, whether you were married, whether you on an open relationship, but the idea was treating everyone with the same respect, treating everyone as human beings. And I like doing that by having personal conversations, just asking how they were, trying to get to know each other, if they have kids, if they have families, if they had any issues. So I try to do that on a daily basis with different individuals. Always talking with my HR manager to make sure that whatever needs the team had were being met, that if there were anything that she or the team needed from me, I was aware of. And then little by little walk the building and starting to see how the operation is running, how trucks were coming in and out, how the team was performing their job. Usually every day we would have a meeting at 10 in the morning to 3 p.m. to set up the morning for success, or to set up the afternoon for success, and make sure that we all were aligned, that if there were any roadblocks, be able to help the team remove them so they could do the job and perform the job. At the job or the level that I was, my job was managing people's situations, whether they were professional or personal, but trying to be a leader, trying to be the example for the team, and dealing with day-to-day stuff. and little by little trying to think of things in the future.
All right. And what would you say was your greatest achievement in that environment?
Being able to help people get to a certain different place, being able to promote someone from one position to the next, being able to create a culture that sees employees as human beings. I don't know how your experience has been, but I've been in multiple companies, and sometimes companies see employees as numbers. It is the job of the leaders to make sure that we see them as what they are, human beings that are looking for a place where they feel welcome, where they feel respected, where they feel listened, where they are asked to perform and they are asked to provide results, but among everything else, that they are cared for at the same time.
Absolutely. All right. Okay, and could you describe the environment? So was it fruit or vegetables or both?
It's fruits and vegetables with tomatoes, peppers, and cucumbers.
Okay, excellent.
Fresh raw product. We didn't have to convert it into fresh cut or anything whatsoever. It was raw product coming in bulk boxes or in package, in clamshells or in bags, and either receive them, inspect them, validate their quality, store them, cross-stock them, repack them, pack them, and then assign them to sales orders or transfer orders and send them to their next destination.
Okay, excellent. And how large was the operation?
1,000 square foot facility. We receive on a weekly, between receiving and dispatching, we receive roughly about 100 trailers on a weekly basis. Full trailers, full 50-foot trailers with 30 to 33 pallets, all in a different variation of products coming in from Mexico, going into the US customers or going into the transfer operations into Ohio and Canada.
Okay, excellent. And from your perspective, Sergio, what do you believe are the biggest challenges your industry is facing right now?
Competition. What consumers expect and want more is getting the freshest, most conditioned product available in the market. Whenever an individual, whether it's a wife, a husband, son, a daughter, goes into a store and wants to purchase peppers, tomatoes, cucumbers, they're expecting a good price, a fair price, but they're expecting something delicious, something fresh, something crunchy, something that as they cut and bite and taste, all they want to do is take another one because they love what they're eating. And you would think that it's very simple to do, very easy to do. It's a simple formula, but because of the different logistics, the different supply chains that you have, whether the product is coming from Mexico, from the US, from somewhere in Europe, from someone in Israel, the logistics plays tremendous part, a very critical, important part on maintaining the freshness, the quality of the product before arriving to a distribution center and before arriving into a store.
Okay.
For instance, with us or with getting product mostly from Mexico through land into the United States and Canada, what takes the most is sometimes just crossing the border. A product that goes from, let's say, Santiago, Querétaro in Mexico to get to Laredo in Texas, it gets to the Mexican border in 18 hours, but sometimes it takes from 3-4 hours to cross to sometimes 3-4 days.
Goodness me.
Simply because of different scenarios. The border is closed because carriers are protesting in Mexico or in the US. There's too many products crossing. Laredo is the biggest land port in the United States, and produce is less than 1% of what it crosses. So you have electronics, automobile, other parts that doesn't necessarily have a sense of urgency because they always remain fresh. You have a plastic bottle, it's going to be a plastic bottle no matter how old it is. But you have a perishable. The longer you have it in your hands, the quality fails. The quality starts to decay, starts to diminish. So the sense of urgency in produce is always there. You need to move the product as fast as possible within always certain quality conditions to make sure that you maintain the quality and the condition in which you harvest and you pack the product and send it out.
Okay, all right. And how do you go about tackling? How do you go about tackling those challenges?
Well, always like working with the city, working with government, working to make sure, trying to understand how the supply, how the process goes, working with our growers and their transportation departments to make sure that they would arrive on time, trying to work as well. One of the things that we wanted to do was trying to combine all our growers with the same transportation companies or with the same custom brokers, so that we could have power and the volume. Because of the other industries, the automotive, the electronics were bigger players. They always had more pressure. They were always ready to cross, even though they didn't need to cross faster. It was some of the things that we were looking at. I had my leaders come from Canada, this being a Canadian company, helping us have these conversations with the different players in the city and in the government, and working with our procurement department and having these conversations as well with our different growers, trying to build plans, build actions, help them understand how the process goes, how long it takes, and little by little working on crossing faster, because in the end, time is of an essence.
Right. Sergio, what would you say is the most important lesson that you've learned in your career?
What is the most important lesson that I learned in my career? I think I learned it on day one from a gentleman back in my banana days when I was in Colombia. You always learn something new every day.
True.
You need to have an open mind. You need to have a receptive, learning mind. No matter how long you've been in the business, no matter how long you worked with a product, there's always something new that you can learn.
Absolutely. And what do you believe that people misunderstand about your industry the most?
That's a good question. I guess a misconception of quality. I'll give you an example. When you look, quality is seen as an image. You take an apple, you take a banana, you take a tomato, and you look at the outside. And for the majority of perishables, yes, the outside tells you how the inside is. But I'll give you an example, for instance, with bananas. Bananas are meant to be completely clean, no blemishes, no scars, no bruises. And what is the first thing you do when you're gonna eat a banana? You peel it off, and that peel in which you have judged the content of the inside is what you throw in the garbage, and then you eat the banana. But you have judged the quality of that banana based on the outside, and you throw it in the garbage. Yes, there are times in which a bruise will go into the inside, in which a certain deformity on the finger will show something in the inside. But a lot of the work done both in the farms throughout the supply chain as it arrives into the markets is done to preserve the quality of that peel, the appearance of that peel, so that when consumers see it, they see something clean. Oh, that's the perfect. It could have been ripened in 3 days and not necessarily taste as sweet as a banana that was ripened in 8 days, or that was ripened naturally from a plant. But because of the outside, it's judged the most. When you go to a supermarket, what do? You grab a tomato and you look at the tomato, or the shape. There are companies today that are working towards trying to sell the produce that is looked at ugly or looked at differently because of its shape. It's not a pepper that is not like a cube. It's not looked at well, or a tomato that's got a different shape other than just the round. it looks ugly. But when you grab them and you cook them and you cut them in pieces and you prepare them, they're just as good as your perfectly shaped, your perfectly clean product.
Correct.
And it's things that we as an industry, in the competition, we have tried to perceive or sell to perceive to our consumers to say, oh, because we offer you this, we're better than that. And reality is not. And reality is what consistently somebody offers, what consistently a consumer receives, and what's on reality sells. If somebody likes your tomatoes and the taste of your tomatoes, they're going to continue buying you. If they taste awful, no matter that they're perfect, pretty, round, and clean on the outside, they're not going to buy them. Consumers are very smart. Consumers understand brands. Consumer understands wherever product is coming from, and sometimes we don't give them enough credit for it.
Absolutely. How do you believe that misconception can be solved, if it can be solved?
Education. I know that on a grocery section in a store, the display section, the area in which the grocery section is limited, but sometimes it's using posters, the 3x5s, using promotional cases to display information. It's sometimes what the companies are doing on their own websites when they create recipes, is sharing as much information as possible with all the consumers, with all the customers, about the qualities of the products, about the benefits of the products, about the misconceptions. I think is one of the things that probably we don't do much, is what are the misconceptions understood by consumers and customers that if clear, probably they would see the product differently. They would understand that if a product comes in, it's not necessarily bad, it's just has some edges that you need to work with.
Sergio, what's the best business or work compliment that you've received in your career?
What is the best compliment that I receive in my career? That I care. I'm a passionate individual. I'm fortunate to work in an industry that is healthy. It's easy to sell the products. It's easy to fight for the products, no matter in what area you work, whether you work growing it or whether you're transporting the product, whether you are inspecting it, whether you're selling it. We all work in sales, and it's very easy to sell nature, especially if you love and you eat the product. And I've been fortunate enough that all the products that I've worked with, I love eating, so it's easy to sell them. So caring and being passionate for what I do.
Excellent. Okay. What titles would you be most suited for or suited to?
It's something that I've been trying to question myself and trying to understand as to what I want, what I've been doing, and what I want to do. I spent most of my career in quality control for the most part, from a corporate perspective, always supporting the supply chain, always understanding every step of the process, because the goal has always been improving process and products. But at the same time, I've been involving myself in other areas of the business, and like for the last 2 years, I've been in supply chain and operations. Something that I wasn't trained to do, but the different positions that I had prior to it somewhat trained me to be able to do that job. I was also had great leadership and guidance from my supervisors in the company, so that also helped. So I'm looking for obviously something in quality control, something like a senior quality control manager position, an operations manager, senior operations manager, with the division manager being the responsible for the entire operation, whether it was 61,000 square foot facility, 35 individuals, like a general manager position. Because I like working with people, I like working with challenges, I like working, improving processes, improving products. I think is the three jobs, mostly the general manager. I like to become in the short time a director of operations. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I like to get to.
Excellent. Okay. Great. And how would you, or what 5 steps would you take in order to hit the ground running in that ideal position? How would you go about that?
I have to start with a 30, 60, 90-day plan, working along with my direct supervisor, because in every place that you go to, whether it's the same company or whether it's a brand new company, you need to get to know your team, the people that you're working with. You need to know the processes, the products, if it's a different product that you have to work with. You need to understand what are the challenges that the operation has been facing. You need to understand what are the different players, the different processes that you have along the supply chain. And you need to have a goal, where you're going. And try to discuss with your leader how you want to get there, how we're going to work to get there. It's also working with, I like to do one-on-ones with my team to make sure that I understand who they are, what they're looking for personally and professionally, to be able to have a complete picture of the different professionals that I'm working with, and to be able to see how I can help them get to where they want to be. Because I've seen my job as a leader, as a manager, as an area manager, my job is to help them be better, help them remove their roadblocks, help them understand what their job is, what their role is in the big picture, and see how individually and collectively we can get to where the company wants us to go. And sometimes having one-on-one conversations on a monthly basis or every 2 months to understand how we're doing, what you're needing, how I can help, how the company can help us, how I can help them remove roadblocks or ask someone to help us remove roadblocks. Working with HR to provide better training, better tools, working with the different departments to make sure that we all work together. It's how I'm gonna get there. It's this past 2 years were very interesting for me, because not only I learn a lot, but I also try to put in place things that I lived, that I saw in my previous lives, how I saw leaders or I saw bosses managing operations, managing an area, a department, a team, whether it was 2, 3, 20, 200, 400. And I always had these ideas of how I wanted to execute them. And I was very fortunate that the leaders in the company gave me the chance to do that. They didn't tell me do A, B, and C. They just simply said, Sergio, we want to open an operation. We want you to run it. And yes, they gave me, this is the processes in which we do, but they allow me to run the operation as I thought it was meant to be. My supervisor always gave me guidance, but rarely he said, you have to do this. He asked me why I wanted to do it one way. I gave him my input, my answer, and whether he agreed or not, he always allowed me to try it. And if it worked, then continue. If it didn't, then you would learn from the mistake or from the action, and then you would try to find a different way.
What is the most important lesson that you've learned over your career?
What is the most important lesson that I've learned throughout my career? Besides always having an open mind and learning as much as possible, being passionate for what you do, treating people as human beings, always being honest, direct. It's not just one thing. It's a combination of things. It's all these things that I just mentioned to you, and always being willing to listen. That I'm very hands-on. That I like to understand what my team does, and I'd like to learn what they do so that at some point I can help them if they need to. If there's no one else around that needs to do the job, that I can do it myself, because that's just the way I am. But that doesn't mean that it's the right way. I guess it's just how I think. But it's always having your open mind, that you are to listen, an open mind to learn, an open mind to be better, than not because you did something like this today, it's the same thing that you're going to do it tomorrow. There are better ways to do it, or there are different ways that can offer different solutions or answers to what we need to do.
Okay. When it comes to the perishable industry, where do you believe the industry is going?
Freshness, how to get consumers, to provide consumers with fresher product. Sometimes companies and people believe that you get to move a product from anywhere in the world into your market, and because it's there, we're selling it fresh. No, the freshest product is as quickly as it is from harvest. It was harvest today, put it on display today, depending on distances. So you're seeing companies, and it's something that I've noticed over the last 4 months that I've been doing my research. You see how rather than having a one big plant with one big distribution center in a central area, and then from there distribute to multiple places, you now have a smaller facility or smaller facilities throughout multiple areas. And then in that facility, you plant, grow, harvest, pack, distribute to a smaller area, so that you can get there within 24 hours, within 48 hours. So within 48, 72 hours, a consumer can eat it. So freshness. The best example that I had personally was when I was in California, and this was many years ago when I used to work for Chiquita. I went to a salad field, and this was in Salinas, and I went to a salad field, and they just harvest a lettuce. And I ate the lettuce right off from the field after cleaning it and washing it. And I ate it, and it tasted like I've never tasted a salad, no matter how many days in shelf it had from a supermarket display. That's the freshness flavor that we all look and want. The second aspect is how to become more safe. As you know, with the FISMA Act, we all want to trust the products that we buy. Not necessarily my last company, but my previous company. The CEO used to say, we are entrusted by our consumers to be able to take the product and put it in their mouths. See, if you trust your process, would you do that? And if you don't, are you doing the right things to make sure that your consumer feels that? My wife always tells me, are you really eating that tomato right away from the package before watching it? Like, yes, I do, because I trust the process. If I don't, I'm going to have to wash it and clean it. The one thing no company wants is to have a recall or go into the news and say X product or X commodity from X brand was recalled because someone got sick and it's in the hospital. Sadly, when one product from one company has that issue, mostly the whole industry gets affected. So no one wants that.
Correct.
And the third one, I guess, price, I would say, because the first two give you a lot, freshness and safety and food safety. Price, how we can get our products to be more affordable. Yes, there's a differentiation if you have a commodity or if you have a premium product, but how we get consumers to not only with the first two, with a fresh, safe product, be able to fall in love with it and be able to repeat that purchase. And in many of my store visits, when I was doing store visits in different markets, if you have a high-end market, yes, you could have a premium product at a premium price, and consumers would not simply mind paying the price for it. But when you want to take that product into a different market on a lower end, on a low income, middle income class, sometimes people have to become choosy as to, oh, I love that product, but I can't eat it because it's too pricey. I have basic necessities that I have to cover, and that is a want, it's not a need. So how to make that product as well less expensive so that more consumers, more fans can enjoy that product. Sometimes the store, I would go to a store. I remember once in Indiana, outside of Chicago, in the north of Indiana, in this very low-end neighborhood, they had this store, and they had clamshells of 10-ounce tomatoes, snacking tomatoes or premium tomatoes, and the store would sell 1 box a week, 15 clamshells once a week, and out of those 15, they would sell 5, 6, and the other would be thrown away, simply because it was in a market that was not. People didn't have enough money to say, I want to buy it. No, if I don't need it, I'm not purchasing it.
I get you.
So those 3 things.
Absolutely. Okay.
The experience of working in multiple fields and multiple products throughout the supply chain, understanding origin and market, understanding the different operations, the different areas of origin and market, because not only I've done them, but because I also work with them and I help improve them. We sometimes go into an area of a company or an industry in which you focus in one area. It's sales, it's production, it's logistics. I've been able to learn a lot about all of them simply because I work with all of them. And again, in greenhouse, in open fields, in different fruits and vegetables, and now in supply chain, rather than just quality and operations and support, and now actually doing the job. So, and I also work with consumers. So I love working on a corporate level, helping the process be better, which it involves you working with all the different players along the supply chain to always the same goal: satisfy the consumer. That's what I find it so enticing, because you work with so many areas and you work with so many people always looking for the same goal. But not every company has that set of departments. Not every company has. They have it, not whether it's a natural process into a different process, but they don't have a department set for the market quality department. It's what I've done through my last 20 years, whether there is or there isn't. When I was in my last job, I was still with the mindset. Even though I was in supply chain, I was always quality with mindset, making sure that every step of the process that my team and myself did was always thinking on the consumer. Whether I was giving the product to the next step in the process, I was thinking, if I give them to them thinking of the consumer, then they're going to get the best product possible, so that they can worry about the consumer as well.
Yeah, no, fantastic.
Pretty much.
Sergio, thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this information useful, please click the like button, and please subscribe to receive new information from the food and agribusiness industry. Thank you. Goodbye.